Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of the Alice in Wonderland purse. If you've gotten through part 1, you're almost done. Okay, we just got to go a little bit further. Let's get started. Alright, so I went back and I clipped all 3 sides around the sides that we're going to sew. We're going to be doing our top stitching next, and I just wanted to make sure that my lining was kind of pulled out of the way and pulled to the side where it needs to be. If you don't clip that up, your lining could kind of slide and not be in the place where you want it to be. If you want to, you can go ahead and clip the back, no problem. It's just up to you. Alright, so now we're going to top stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stitches at a 4 length. Have a good needle in. I'm going to double check my bobbin real quick and make sure that it's nice and full, and then we're going to start top stitching. Alright, so I took it and put the vinyl inside, kind of made the bowl. This is going to help me be able to kind of pull my lining out and making sure that my lining is not like all up in my zipper space or anything like that. So you got your stitches at a 4 length. And before I get started, I am going to come up here to my sewing machine, and you see these little knobs right here? That controls your presser foot height. I'm going to loosen those up a little bit because I know that I'm going to need it. Oh, it's so hard to do this one-handed. Okay. So if you didn't know, now you know. You need to do those so that you can get a little bit more height on your foot being raised up. Alright, I'm going to wipe my hands off. I'm dirty now. Now we're going to hang on to our tail when we get started, and I'm going to try really hard to make sure that you guys can see. And we're going to take it nice and slow, remembering that you need to try and make sure that your lining is not underneath of your zipper. And I'm not going to backstitch right now. I am going to get that thread out. Okay. Now I got both of my hands back. So you kind of want to take this hand right here, and you're pulling the vinyl away from the zipper, and you're pulling the lining away from the zipper. And I'm just sewing 1/8 of an inch around. Alright, so this first hump is going to be thick. I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. I do have my other hand on that side of the zipper, just trying to get it out of the way because I don't want to accidentally sew my zipper, but I don't want to sew my hand either. Just take it nice and slow, guys. And yeah, these zippers are huge and cute, but they're kind of in the way. Be careful, don't get that zipper. Come on. I'm trying to get this so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, now we're going to make sure that your needle is down, and then we're going to turn it, and I am going to backstitch over the zipper because I do not want that thing popping out if somebody were to pull on it too hard or something like that. Alright. Now you're going to need to stick your hand underneath on this side and kind of make sure that that lining is out of the way. Making sure to not accidentally sew your hands. Alright, my hand's back here now. Alright, try and keep that 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. It's going to get hard around this corner because your fabric is going to want to do what it wants to do. Okay. Anybody else have a hard time with corners? Just me? Take your time, guys, and make sure everything is straight, because this is a lot of work. And you don't want to mess it up because you forgot to straighten something out or anything like that. Alright, so stop right now and get this thread, your starter thread, pulled through. Go ahead and kind of get that out of the way. Okay, there we go. Alright, make sure that your needle is down. Pivot. Alright, now remember we're going to back stitch over this zipper. Alright, take your thread out, pull it through the back, and let's cut it and burn it, and then we're going to move on. Alright, so we've got both of our panels all done. The next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to grab some 1/4 inch tape and some 1/2 inch tape. In the beginning I told you guys when you interfaced your Decoville light that you were going to need a 1/2 inch on this side. This is why. Alright, first things first, we're going to take our 1/4 inch and we are going to find it somewhere. Oh, before you do this, because this is going to be important later, you need to measure, because everybody's kind of seam allowances that they do are kind of different. You know, even if you try to do a 1/4 inch, sometimes they're a little off. Go ahead and measure from this point right here to this point right here, and then from this point right here to this point right here, and write that down. You're going to need to make a template for putting this on the back panel. It'll really help you be able to place this and place it correctly. This is what mine measured when I was all finished. 6 wide by 8 3/4 tall. So hang on to that. Go ahead and cut it out. I just took a regular piece of paper and cut it out, and then I made some notches. I folded it in half all the way around and made some notches. That's going to be important in just a little bit. So go ahead and do that before you do this step. After you've done that, we're going to add the 1/4 inch tape all along the inside of just the lining. We're not touching the, not the lining, the inside of our outside panel. We are not putting this on the lining. Also pay attention to which direction your seams are facing. When you put the tape on, make sure that your seams are facing the right way when you put the tape over top of it. Now that that's all done, we're going to do the outside. We're going to be taking the 1/2 inch tape all around the outside. I told you guys you're going to be using a lot of double-sided tape. And I am just putting it like a smidge above. Do you see how it kind of hangs over just a little bit? I don't want that in my seam allowance, so I'm just kind of making it so that it's just a teeny tiny bit overhanging, like not even 1/8 of an inch. So you see how it's just a little bit is hanging over the edge there? That's what you want. Just a little bit. We don't want to run over any more tape than we have to because our needle is going to get funky. Okay. Now, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do something about this inside tape. So find where you started. There we go. And then you're going to peel this tape away. And then you're going to fold down, and I'm going to go ahead and do one side at a time. So you're going to fold this down that 1/2 inch, and it should, if you've done the Decovit Light right, it should just lay right down, making sure that your seams are folded over, right like that. Alright, that's it. And you're just folding it over. The 1/4 inch tape is going to help hold this down, and the 1/2 inch tape is going to help us get our lining, because we want our lining to attach to it. Paying attention to how your seams are. Alright, now you should have your outside panel all tucked in at a 1/2 inch. Kind of go around, make sure that tape is hanging in there, because that's asking a lot of it. That 1/4 inch isn't very big. And I guess you could do 1/2 inch if you wanted to, but it might mess up folding it down. Alright, now I'm going to take our lining, and this is going to be kind of eyeballing it, guys. You can mark this if you want, it's up to you, but I'm going to fold this over, and I'm going to take this tape off, and then I'm going to start matching up my outside and my inside. And take your time matching this up so that it'll be right in the end. I'm kind of matching up my corners first, and then kind of going back and matching up the sides. You're going to do this to both panels, this one too. to make sure you got plenty of double-sided tape so that you can do it. And if you want, you can go ahead and like clip this up and let it sit for a little while, just so that it kind of takes that shape. I don't like leaving it clipped because the clips can leave, you know, marks on your vinyl. But if you have the double-sided, or not the double-sided, the one-sided interfacing that's kind of thick, you could clip up some pieces of that, put that around the edge, and then put your clip on top of that. And that would help it all do what it's supposed to do. And you could clip it for a little while. Alright. Your inside of your lining should look like that. Everything should be folded in. We don't want any raw edges poking out. We want everything tucked in there nice and steady. Alright, do that. Let's do that to one panel. Let's go sew this on and then do it to the other panel, because you don't want it to leave a panel sitting out and the tape is like popping or whatever. If you don't have a good enough double-sided tape, everything might come undone that you just spent all that time doing. So I would do one panel at a time. Now, we have got our main panel, and you want the We're All Mad here facing this way so that the T is kind of pouring down, and that way your panels will all be facing the same direction. So if you've measured out and you cut this out, we're going to have to do some more measuring. I know, it's terrible. I'm sorry. You're also going to need another marking tool so that we can mark where this needs to go. So we're going to go, and I'm kind of going to use my mat to help me out here. I'm going to go an inch in, and then the tops and the bottoms need to be the same. And it was right here. It's that little line before you get to an inch. And just double check and make sure that your top and your bottom are both in the same place. Okay. Once you've got this centered, hopefully you guys can see that. Okay. I'm going to go around. We're going to do two things. We're going to draw around our template. On each of your little clip side, we're going to do a little line like this so that we can see where that little notch is. So on this side, I'm going to draw all the way down. Oops. And then make that little notch right there. I'm just going to make it come out, kind of like a poking it out. Okay, and then we need to have these 4 marks so that we can tell that everything is lined up the way that it's supposed to be. And don't get rid of that. We're going to need that for the next one. Alright, now you're going to need to grab your 1/4 inch double-sided tape. You guys are going to be so tired of this double-sided tape. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get 4 individual pieces, and I'm going to put them right in the center of my lines that I just marked. You're going to be putting it over top. You won't be able to see your lines anymore, and that's fine. Once you take the tape off, you'll be able to see it. So we're going to go all the way around, and you need these to be individual pieces of tape so that you can take each side off as we're working on that side. And just put it on the center as best you can. You could do a whole like string of tape, but the way that we're sewing this, you really need them to be individual pieces, because we're going to be working on one side at a time, so that I don't know if you guys have ever sewn those backpacks that have like a front part, and when you're sewing they just kind of weeble and wobble and go in their own direction. I'm going to show you guys a technique that I kind of came up with to sew one side at a time, and then sew around the corners. Sew around the corners so that it's a little bit easier. Alright, so let's take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to put this all together at the sewing machine. Alright, so the very last prep thing that we need to do, you need to get your marking tool again. I forgot about this. So from this corner to this corner, we're going to kind of bring that together like that so the seams are together, and then you're going to kind of come up here to the middle and we're going to make a mark. And then on the shorter corners, same thing, meet up the middles, make a mark. On the long corners, make a mark. Last one. Those are going to match up on your panel here, the extra middle marks that we made. That's going to help us make sure that everything is lined up the way that it's supposed to be. So we're going to start on this side. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the We're All Mad here is going in this direction. We need to make sure that our panel is facing in the right direction as well. The very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start working on this side. I'm going to remove the tape. And I hope and pray you guys can see this. Okay, so you see my middle mark here and you see my middle mark here. That's the first thing that we're going to do, is we're going to match up those middle marks. And when I match them up, I am putting the panel on the very edge of the double-sided tape. We're not going to be putting it on the line, we're going to be putting it on the edge of that double-sided tape, so that you don't see the double-sided tape on the outside. We're going to lay it flat like this, and we're doing one side at a time because sometimes when you're sewing on this side and you come around the corner, everything kind of like moves and slides around with it. I want to show you guys how I did this so that it won't move, and it'll kind of like stabilize everything so that when we're going around this corner it won't do that. Now I am going to move you to the other side so that you can actually see me sewing this. So what we're going to do is we have got our stitches out of 4. I have got a thicker needle on here. Don't ask me which number I have because I can never keep up with what I'm doing. What we're going to do is about 1/4 of an inch from this bump, we're going to start sewing. Alright, make sure that you're hanging on to your thread tails when you start this. We're going to need to be able to pull this to the back because we're going to be making a knot to make sure that this piece is nice and secure and is not going to ever come undone. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. And we're sewing at 1/8 of an inch to the edge. Okay. Alright, again going to about 1/4 of an inch from the corner, and you want to leave yourself a decent amount of tails. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to come over here onto the back and pull your threads through. Don't cut them, don't burn them, don't do anything just yet. Don't cut them, but you can go ahead and tie knots. We're going to be doing these for all of them just to kind of give ourselves some extra stability, because this is a lot of pressure to put on a piece like that on a bag. So I'm just going to make my little knots. I'm making 3 if my thread will work with me. Okay, so that part is done. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to turn this around, and we're going to do this side. We're kind of going from side to side around. So first things first, take your tape off. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Alright. Then we're going to take our middle notches, putting them together and then pushing down on the outside of your double-sided tape as best you can. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same thing. Let's see a little bit of my double-sided tape. I would do on this side, I don't know why it's so thick right there, but something I forgot. Get your key fob tool. If you have one of these, grab it. And you can go ahead before we even start sewing and just kind of smush this down, because that area just is thick and you don't want your sewing machine to kind of catch on it. I always wait before I sew to do that. You don't want to do it too soon. And just right before I know I'm going to be sewing on it, I'll just kind of smush it down. And it really does help. Alright. Hopefully you could see what I was doing. Now I'm going to have to reposition everything. And that's fine. Alright. Now, making sure that you've got your thread. Hang on to that tail of your thread. Watch out for your zippers. Alright, stop. We're going to do the same thing that we just did on the other side. I'm going to flip this over. And you know you're doing really good if your lines are straight on the back. That's a pretty good indication that you're doing things right. It's if your lines are kind of like going like this, then you've done something wrong. And you need to try again. Again, we're not going to cut these just yet. We're making knots. Because we don't want this to go anywhere. Alright, now I'm going to start at the top. We're going to take the tape off. The tape will come off. I'm going to take our little paper off. We're going to match up our center notches. Okay, and if you haven't squished your corners yet, squish your corners real quick so that it's a little bit easier to sew through. Alright, so we are going to start right where we left off. Alright, we're going to start right where we kind of left off. And then as you're going around the corners, give myself a little extra thread there. We're going to go slow around these corners, guys, okay? Just take your time. If you have to, lift up your needle and move it to where it needs to go. Because she's thick. I'm going off track. Okay. So as you noticed, when I started sewing it, it wasn't like shifting or moving around. It's because I did this side and this side. I actually should have done a little bit here and then came back and did the corners. It's up to you. It worked out. I'm happy. Next thing we're going to do, turn this over, do the same thing. We're going to make knots, because we don't want this to come out. Last side. What we're going to do is we're going to take this tape off, and then we're going to match up our middles. And then kind of match up our tape. Okay, now we're going to start right here and then kind of go around like we just did. Alright. Turn this over and make sure that you do your knots like you've been doing. Alright, so I wanted to show you guys what I do with the knots when I'm all done. So I left one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the threads all together. I'm not cutting them super short. I don't know if you can even see those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let them start burning, and then I'm going to stop them early and then smash them in. And that way the ends of those threads aren't going anywhere. Now, also look at the back of my thing. I don't know if you can see the whole thing, but you can kind of see that it's straight. If your thing is kind of like going this way or going kind of wonky on the bottom, then it's not completely correct, but it's your bag, so you do you. But it should be following those lines that we made so that it's straight on the front. Alright, so we got one side on. Yay! Alright, before we go to the next side, what I want to do is I want to make some marks. These are going to be kind of sewing our outside and our inside together. I am going to find this mark and this mark, the edge of like those gold. You kind of tell it's the middle of the book or the middle of the purse. I'm going to make a line right on the outside of those from this yellow line to this yellow line, just to the yellow line. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. I know it's silver, a silver marker, so it's kind of hard to see. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm kind of using my ruler here as a straight edge, so I'm making sure that right here is straight across, and then right here is line to line. So we're going to make a line right there. That is for later. I didn't want to do it with us putting the first one on in case we accidentally wipe some of that off, and we may still wipe some of it off. It's just a whole lot easier to do it now before both panels are on. Alright, now we're going to need our little ruler, our piece of paper again, and our second panel. Okay, we're going to make sure that this is, we're going to use our sewing table and make sure that this is in an inch. I'm kind of just eyeballing it, but you could measure it. Okay, then you're going to measure it from the bottom and to the top, making sure that they're at the same point, and that way it's even all the way around, because you don't want, you know, one of your panels all the way up here and then one of them down there. It's going to look weird. So just make sure that you're measuring and making sure that it's the same exact distance. Okay, now we're going to grab our marking pen, go across the top, whoop. Make sure that you make that little mark right here going up. We're going to go across the side, making sure that you got a mark right there. Going across the bottom, a mark right there. And then a mark right there. Okay, that's done. Let's set this aside. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and do our tape while we're here. Okay, so we're going to do tape. And I make it a little bit shorter than the lines, especially near the corners. There we go. You're putting it right in the center of that line. I love those zipper pulls. I think they are super cute, but boy did they get in the way when I was sewing. I was like, these are super cute, Alex, but they all up in the way. It's fine. They were still cute, and I think they really go with the outside of the bag when you put everything together. Alright, there you go, right in the center. So we got all 4 of those done. Let's move to your second panel. So I went ahead and I did the 1/4 inch tape on the inside and the half an inch on the outside, because that takes basically forever, and this video is going to be 9 million years long. So I'm going to start taking that tape off and then folding it over 1/2 inch. And that 1/2 inch tape is going to really help you figure out where to fold it. And because you cut your Decoville light short, it should kind of naturally want to fold over top of that Decoville light. Okay, got that all done. Go around and give it an extra hug. Make sure that it's not going anywhere. Alright, now we're going to take this 1/2 inch tape off, and we're going to fold in our lining. So you're just going to have to kind of eyeball 1/2 inch. And if you want to, you can kind of like pre-mark it. It's up to you. However you want to do it. You can take your little ruler and then kind of figure out, okay, well that's a 1/2 inch, I need to fold it over. I just eyeball it. So my camera card got full, so it stopped recording at some point. Basically, you're going to do just like you did your other one. Now, I took my little key fob tool and I went ahead and I went around the corners because I kept forgetting to do it. So go ahead and like pre-squash those corners. You just want to stick it in there and just give it a little squash. and that'll just kind of help as you're going around those corners. Alright, now we're going to start with the outside, making sure that your zippers are going to be facing each other. They should be in the middle, or it would be upside down. Okay, so we're going to take this side tape off first. And then I'm going to measure up my middles. I do have a little bit of lining peeking through there. Too much. Okay. Alright, so I am just going to kind of speed sew through the rest of this because I've already done one side with you guys, but I will record myself doing it, that way you can at least see me doing it. Okay, so she's all done. Haha, not yet. So you have this cute little inside to put all your little goodies, and ours is fully lined, so we don't see any on the inside. Just saying. So that's done. I'm going to take that and set that aside. Now we are going to grab a couple of things. Masking tape. I only have painter's tape. I don't know what's wrong with me. At some point I'll remember to go get some, but right now I have painter's tape. Alex and Kim made up these really cute tags, and I feel like this bag needs it just because it looks really, really cool, and it just kind of gives that bag an extra little like oomph. You're also going to need a marking tool and your seam ripper. So I kind of want to see where I want this. You can kind of put it anywhere that you want. I wouldn't put it super close to the edge. That's why I'm thinking like right there might be good. And you want to go ahead and pick those feet up and then kind of see where they naturally fall on your little metal tag there. So I know that I'm going to need to make my marks in these two right here. So I am going to use that to kind of help me figure out where I want the bag tag to go, and I'm going to try and get it as centered as I can. If you want, you can like measure and do all of that, but ain't nobody got time for that today. So I'm just going to kind of see where it looks good, and that's far enough away from him that we don't want to cover him up. So I'm going to make a mark right here and a mark right there. Lift that up. I think that's perfect. Alright, so we're going to cut through that and cut through that. Also, if you didn't know, you need to interface this with Decovil Light. You can actually go ahead and put the Decovil Light all the way to the edge if you want, or 1/4 of an inch. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. But you are going to see the edges in this purse, so you probably should cut it away from the complete edge. Alright, so we're going to take those feet and we're going to poke those in. If this one will go in. Alright, look at that. Look how good that looks. It's just what you need for the outside to make it pop. Alright, so we're going to turn this over. I'm going to put this on, and then I'm going to spread my feet out like that. And then take my painter's tape, your masking tape, and put it down like that, because we don't want it like rubbing on the lining or rubbing on the top vinyl. Alright, now that that's done, and I'm pretty happy with the placement. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Alright, so this is going to take some skill, you guys. Alright, so we're going to take it like this, and we want Alice to be facing up like that, okay? Now we are going to find the center of this right here. So we're going to find the center, and then I'm just going to kind of make a line through the center all the way across. Whoops, it doesn't show up. This pen is actually better for vinyl than it is for anything else, but that's what I had. Alright, I'm going to grab your double-sided tape. And we're going to put it along here. We're going to put the double-sided tape right in the center. Then on this side, the side with Alice on it, we're going to put another piece of double-sided tape. And I am going to double check and make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. I am going to put another one kind of in the center, just because I want a little extra stability here. Then I'm going to put one along this side, just like the other side. Okay, and then you can put another one either side of your bag tag. It doesn't really matter, just somewhere on there. What we're going to do is we're going to be very carefully placing this on top of this. And we're going to take our time with this, and they should still match up. But I'm going to do one side at a time. I'm going to grab these two right here and pull the paper off. Okay. And then I'm going to match up my corners, the bottom, everything before I lay it down and start pressing away. I want to do my best to make sure that it's lined up. I might have to open my bag and kind of press, because that double-sided tape is like right on the inside here. Alright, now that I know that's straight, I'm going to pull this back and get this middle piece, and I'm going to make sure tops and bottoms are all straight. Oop, don't try not to rub your line. You need to be able to see that. Alright, and then lastly, you're going to pull off these two if they want to come off. There we go. Alright, now we're going to make sure edges, corners, everything is straight before you kind of push it down. And if things aren't lining up, say you have just a slight bit on the edges that don't match up, you can still trim that down if you need to. Just make sure that your line remains straight. So from what I can see, this looks good. I may have just a slight bit around here that I might have to trim. And from the back, that looks pretty good too. Alright, so you got everything all laid out and ready to go. Before we sew this little rectangle, we need to take care of some D-rings so that we actually have a way to kind of carry our purse around. Alex is going to add the 2x3 pieces in your pattern. I cut mine down to like a 2. Let me show you why. A 2x2 square. This is the purse finished, and if it's 2x3, I'm afraid it was going to stick out too far, and so I did 2x2. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. You can give it a try at 2x3 and see how it looks, 2x2 and see how it looks, but it's just, when I'm sewing it in, it's the end of it is like right there, so I catch it in both these seams. And I don't know, I just like that it doesn't stick out but so far. So next thing I'm going to do, once I've got my connectors top stitched, I'm going to go back to my sewing machine and I'm going to close these up, and then I'm just going to base stitch around these to keep them closed. That really helped me when I was trying to put them in here and top stitch. They were already closed and they weren't trying to like pop open or shift around or whatever. And then I put a piece of double-sided tape back here and it stayed right where I put it, and it was really nice. So I'm going to do that real quick. They're all base stitched, ready to go. Next thing we're going to do is I put a piece of double-sided tape. Take that off, and then I want you to look at your rectangle here, your gold, and you can kind of line it up with your cutting mat to help you kind of center everything. And then I'm going to stick it in, and the tail needs to go right past this yellow line right here. So when you get it centered, you can push it down just like that, and then do the same thing at the bottom. Kind of figure out how you want to get it centered. Okay, the tail of it needs to go past this gold line, so make sure that both of them go past the gold line. Now what we're going to do with 4 length stitches, we're going to go down this line we created. We're just making a straight rectangle. I want you to come underneath of this gold so that we make sure that we catch this, back up around the edge of the gold, and then back stitch. You can do 1 or 2 stitches to begin with and then 1 or 2 stitches to end with. That is going to catch our D-rings, but we are also going to sew around the outer edge, combining these vinyls together. So you're going to have 2 places where your D-rings are caught, and they won't, make sure that they don't come off. Just make sure that your edges of your D-ring is past this gold mark right here. No, this is going to be in the way. Last thing we're going to do is all the way around the edges, 1/8 of an inch. I put my left zipper foot on so that it can still be my walking foot. I didn't want my zipper foot on this side because it would keep me from getting close to this, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get close as I can to the edge. So make sure that you hang on to your tails. We are on to the finish line. Love how this turned out. Super cute. Very, very cute. But we got to do something about this. So I went back and I laid this out. And sometimes when you're cutting things out, stuff can get weeble wobbly. So I just went back with my straight tool here, and I went ahead and just kind of went around. You really want your edges to be nice and smooth all the way around. One side shouldn't be out further than the other. You can leave these edges raw if that's what you choose to do. It's up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and edge coat these. So I have had this for a while, but it's still working. So I'm going to continue to use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one side at a time because I only have so much space to kind of lay these out and let them dry. So I'm just going to do this long edge first, and you just kind of, your tool should slide around. I actually need to clean mine a little better. You can put one coat on, and then you're supposed to sand it down. And I wish that I was an expert at doing edge coating, but I am not. This isn't something that I get to do very often. So I don't know what grit sandpaper you would need to get. There are plenty of YouTubers out there that do this on the regular and would be able to tell you. I just got some regular sandpaper that I had at the house, and then I just kind of lightly sand it around the paint just to kind of make it more flat. And it worked just fine. So it's just up to you if you want to do a little bit of research into how you can do it. Now, you cannot lay this flat down on your desk. I do have my nasty mat down today, just in case something gets out loose. But you can't just lay it down because it will stick to your mat. So I'm going to leave it kind of like hanging over the edge and let it dry, and then just keep going with the different coats that I've got to do. And then I'll just have to do one edge at a time. I've seen people use those little like plate holders from the dollar store with their pocket pals and letting them dry, but this is kind of big, so I don't know if that would work or not. So I'm just going to do one side at a time and let this side hang over my desk, and then I'll turn it around and do the other side, and then do the same thing over and over again until I'm completely finished. And I hope you guys can see what I've been doing while I've been talking, because I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing. Alright. Now, I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it on the edge of my desk like that. I am just going to leave it there and let it dry. I've got another one I've got to do too, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. Just let the top hang over, let it dry, sand it down a little bit, and then we're going to go to our base coat. I'm not going to do a bunch of coats on this because I think it'll be fine, but it's up to you how many layers you want to do, how many coats you want to do, all of that. This is what it looks like after 2 coats of the edge coating base coat. You could very well, if you put it on there good enough, you could very well just leave it like that. If you're not up to doing the edge coating and stuff, or you're not patient enough like me, you could leave it there. But I'm going to show you guys, I got a little container, and this is another project that I had been working on. I got a container to put it in because we're going to have to do each side, and we're going to have to let it dry. So, yeah, we're going to have to be somewhat patient. So, I'm going to take my regular cobalt blue paint, and I'm going to pour it in there like that. You don't need a ton. I mean, you're just doing a little bit of edge coating. But I'm going to go ahead and put a decent dollop in there. And then I'm going to take some of my edge coating base coat and pour it in there. You don't want too much because it is going to change the pigment color that you're working with. I thought I had my paintbrushes ready, but I did not. So I'm just going to use this, and we're going to mix that in as best we can. A paintbrush would work better to kind of make sure that it's getting into each other, but this will do. You just want enough of that Gardini in there so that it kind of becomes that color. And I wish I had like a 1-to-1 ratio or something to tell you, but I don't. Alright, so we're just going to make sure that it's mixed really well. And with the edge coating, you're really going to want to take your time, because it's not like it's the clear stuff and you can just wipe it away, or you can just kind of fake it till you make it. This stuff you really got to be careful with. Hey, McGonagall, you got to go, girl. I have a helper today. You really got to go, because you can't be in here while I'm doing this. I know. Go play. Alright. Now, we want to take one side of our bag at a time. You don't want to try and do the whole thing. Really take your time. If you take your time, this will turn out really, really nice. If you rush it, it won't. So, I'm going to start on my corner, And you want to do it where you can kind of see it. You can see both the top and the bottom, because sometimes stuff goes on the top and you won't be able to see it. Alright, just double checking, making sure I'm not getting any accidentally on the top or the front. You just want it on this edge. Alright, so let this dry, and then you need to do the other 3 sides, just the same. Alright guys, so what did you think? Did you get through it? I hope you guys took my advice and did some practice tests before you did it on your main panel. I think that'll really help you as far as sewing around those zippers, basting them in place, and having to put your lining over top of them, with them all kind of wanting to move everywhere but where they're supposed to go. If you practice with a practice fabric, good job. It's always good to take a chance and do a mock-up before you cut into your good fabric. I'm also on Instagram, you guys, and I would love to see some of the makes that you've been making with our videos. I would also love to see them on K&A Custom Fabrics. Alex and Kim and I would all love to see your books when they're all done. So make sure you share on the page so everybody else can see them too. I know this was a doozy. That's why we did the clock purse along with this one, so that we'd kind of have one that was easy and one that was a little more technical. Hopefully you guys liked it. Hopefully it turned out. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, leave them in the comment section down below. We also have a couple of strikers that are doing this purse, and they're going to have the experience of being able to sew through this. If you have any questions, just leave a comment on K&A Custom Fabrics, or leave it in the comment section down below here, and we will check those and we will help you guys out in any way that we can. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up, or if you want to subscribe and see some of the other stuff that we've got coming up. Oh, Harry Potter. I have been busy. I might sneak some pictures in here. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comment section down below. And thanks again for joining us on Faithworks Designs. Bye, guys.